Okay, we have some interesting discussion today, so let's kick it off. Rao, are you ready for the tech update?
Yes, I am. One second. Let me share the link. Okay, so the status of the networks remains the same right now, but Gurinder is just about ready to clean the testnet of its current long state. It's been running for several months, so he's going to, I put a note to this effect in the testnet channel a few days ago that we're going to give the community a couple of days in case people have to finish off any long-running tests that they're doing right now, but that we're going to clear the testnet of the state. The reason for that is to enable rev-define to catch up with the testnet, and in future, we're going to be removing state from the testnet once every month or so with a couple of days notice. So that's going to be standard procedure going forward. This way, any nodes or people that are trying to do development can quickly sync in with the testnet and move forward. So that's the one activity going on with the networks right now. And so by sometime between today and tomorrow, Gurinder will be clearing out the state on the testnet. The LLBM work is continuing, and Nutzipper is trying to get an updated LLBM version for the testnet. The team is using the simulator created by Tomislav the simulator does automatic DAG generation, and it's being used to test the LLBM code. And Stas is continuing to add further improvements to that under Tomislav's guidance at this point in time. The idea is to be able to catch, basically randomly generate DAGs so that we catch any and all edge cases to make sure that the LLBM code is working as expected through all of that. Dennis has completed updating the dev branch with his radix tree implementation. Now, what he's doing now is he had already in the past captured the performance improvements, but he's going to document them in an issue. I put the link to the issue here right now. That issue is blank. There's nothing in there yet, but he will be adding the data from his tests in there so that we have a record of that pre and post the history implementation changes. I said last week that Tomislav and Dennis were going to investigate if there is any further cache improvements that can be done, especially moving cache to a higher level. So Tomislav's analysis concluded that that's not going to really help. So that is not an item or task to be worked on at the moment. Tomislav is working on the changes to last finalized state to work with the LLBM algorithm. That's continuing. He also looked into the Rolang performance. One of the areas, one of the key areas he identified as the potential bottleneck currently in Rolang performance is the primitive operations. So he dug that into a little bit. He will be guiding Dennis to investigate some algorithmic improvements for the Rolang primitive operations. So that's, at this time, it's only analysis, and then it'll take a while probably to make it in. But when it is done, it should give us some nice performance improvement there. Will is adding more tests to the Rolang version 1.1 code base. Like I said, we are paying attention to Rolang 1.1 to get it all cleaned up, merged, reviewed and merged, to get it ready so that basically we want everybody to be working in Rolang 1.1 as soon as possible. That's kind of the direction we're going in. Will's PR to eliminate the double spend in the new route transfer implementation. That was the one outstanding task for the route transfer implementation, the improved and faster route transfer. the double spend task is now, the PR is being reviewed. So it should be merged after the changes are completed following the review. Like I said, I covered this item about the testnet already. So Will and Gurinder will be getting the, mostly Gurinder, I think now is getting the rev define to work with testnet after cleaning up the testnet. The other thing that Will and Tomislav are looking into is we have the ability to record transactions on chain. Right now, rev define does get all the data and then do the transactions. But there was work that Isaac has done that includes code to do transactions on the, transactions on the chain. So Will and Tomislav will look at that to make sure that tests everything is okay on that, and they'll be moving that into the dev branch and on to the testnet and all of that. So that work is also going on. We kept saying for a few weeks now that the minimum flow price is now parameterized. So all wallet makers or anybody else that's using the minimum flow price will have to make slight changes to be able to use the or get the value of the parameter and then put that in the deploy data instead of the currently used default of 1 or constant of 1. So the way to do that is to call API status, get the minimum flow price for that particular validator, and then put that in the deploy data. So Tomislav has updated the wiki with a little documentation there. The link is here in item 8 if you're following the document. And then we will continue to make the communications to folks that need to be aware of that. But if you are using a particular wallet and if they're not, if they did not say anything about it, maybe you want to encourage them to say, hey, look at this and this is what you need to do, update the wallets accordingly. So that's, it's important that as we get to hard fork 2, that everybody has their wallets updated. So those, I think, are the main highlights I have today. I just want to make sure I didn't forget anything here. So yeah, that's what we have. Are there any questions or comments on any of these?
Yeah, I think just to clarify, as I understand it, Nutzipper's version of the integration between finalization and block merge is the algorithm is actually up on the simulator. So he's still working to track down an issue in the block DAG storage on testnet, but the algorithm is actually working on the simulator. And so far, we've seen no issues. Is that correct, Anton?
Well, we need more testing on simulator, but what I've managed to test, I didn't see problems.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, we need more coverage, but so far we haven't seen any problems there. Good. Good. Very good.
All right.
Thank you, Rao. So this week was largely a informational discussion in the board. No decisions were made. And it was a special meeting as opposed to the regular board meeting. So, but if you want to know more color or more details about the discussion, please come to the Friday session. We do have an interesting topic that we would like to talk about with the membership, but I will defer that until after we have the week in review. Daryl, are you ready?
Yes, sorry, I was just looking for the mute button.
No worries.
Okay, so hey everybody, here's the community week in review for February 3rd to February 9th. On Thursday, there was no governance committee meeting because we're going to move to a monthly cadence. In the work study, they were worked on adding trust metric to ballot.row. started group.row trust metric update, the use of the @ sign and asterisk sign in contracts, some bootstrap issues, and there is a video available of this if anyone is interested. On Friday in the Climate and Coordination RCast, we started by discussing that 40% of all cargo being carried on ships is that of fossil fuels. Then we discussed tree diversity and a particular tree in New York that existed from the year 1675 to the year 2021. We also discussed how Larry Fink of BlackRock fame, one of the world's largest investment companies, according to an article in CNBC, said that the next 1,000 unicorns will be green energy companies. Two more quotes from the article. The next 1,000 billion startups will be those that help the world decarbonize and make the energy transition affordable for all consumers, wrote BlackRock CEO Larry Fink. And here's another quote from Larry Fink. We focus on sustainability, not because we're environmentalists, but because we are capitalists and fiduciaries to our clients. So there you go. Larry Fink, CEO of one of the world's largest investment firms, appears to have now aligned his thinking with the Swiss climate scientist Thomas Stocker, who has said that the next industrial revolution will be driven by decarbonization. So yeah, on Saturday, they had a call around message passing blockchain architectures. There is an opportunity to run an Agoric node as an IBC gateway to interact with Agoric and Ethereum NFTs and any other chain supporting IBC. Sounds like that was an interesting call. On Monday in the Casper stand-up, they covered important aspects of the model theory involving non-standard truth value domains, including quantales, multisets, and probability distributions. Also on Monday in the RDev member co-op planning, RNote Bootstrap in JavaScript is near complete. They did some tutorials and Algorand doc model. Yesterday in the communications working group, we focused mainly on the marketing side of things. We discussed the Polygon Sequoia announcement, which led to a discussion on a pathway to funding by finding legal counsel who has had experience in setting up and bringing in funding for blockchain projects. We then discussed the current state of the pitch decks and discussed updating the RChain.coop press kit page for upcoming block merge announcement and press details around last finalized state and other tech advantages. Okay, and also yesterday in the DApp developer work study, they did Algorand doc model, started group.row trust metric update. And let's see now, this morning in today's active member hangout, Jim was at the doctor's office, but he left the room open. And two members from RChain's past joined and showed us a pitch deck called D-Frame, which is really exciting. So yeah, active week. Back to you, Greg.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl? Okay. Well, I would like to throw out to the community some questions with respect to our approach to marketing. I've been calling for over 2 years now that we begin to market to a wider group, that we approach a different set of communities. Actually, since 2017, I've been suggesting that we align ourselves with approaching solutions to the consequences of climate change. That's been my position, public position, since 2016. And I was open about it in 2017 when we formed RChain. And while a lot of the RChain marketing efforts have ended up reaching out to blockchain and crypto communities, I have really pushed hard since 2020 that we began to approach the climate change sectors, and in particular, the intersection between those people who are concerned about climate change and those people who are interested in tech. In 2020, BlackRock announced its the shift of its portfolio, along with the many others following, Goldman Sachs amongst them. There have been a lot of high-end investment shops such as Kleiner Perkins that have been doing this for over 15 years. Putnam is another example of a group that's been doing this for quite some time. And I just want to say that if we put aside any of the moral considerations, any of the arguments about making the world a better place, and put on your hard-nosed business personality, persona, appeal to your business acumen, where is all the money? All the money is shifting to climate change and how to deal with climate change and the consequences of climate change. That the volume of that fiscal shift is orders of magnitude larger than the growth of blockchain. And so when we think about marketing, I am curious as to how people in the community think about it. It's sort of okay, in my opinion, to have articles in CoinDesk or Cointelegraph or that sort of thing. Although I'll get to some caveats about that. But I do believe that we need to start looking at communications in other venues and connecting with other communities and and approaching other market sectors. There's so much money in climate change, and we ought to be going after it. We should not be focused on crypto speculation for sure. That should be right out. But also, not trying to approach the blockchain bros, to use the vernacular. That's again, this is my opinion. I also want to point out that for a large sector of the mainstream populace, they view blockchain and especially crypto and certainly NFTs as a scam. And they rightly view DeFi as a scam. And so having us associated, prominently featured in the pages of CoinDesk or other of those market segment venues, brands us as criminals, despite what we may be saying in their eyes. And so I think it has some significant downsides, that kind of marketing approach, by comparison to potentially taking the high road, so to speak. And this is in fact why I launched the Climate and Coordination calls, was to firmly establish us with this kind of presence and with a long history of having this message, so that we can connect with these market sectors. But I'd also like to hear from the rest of the community. What is their position? How do they think about this?
Well, I couldn't agree more, obviously. So I don't know if that's the dissenting opinion you were hoping for. But I agree that I think it's really important to appeal beyond the noise of the very insular crypto community. And I think it's great that, that Daryl has taken steps to make RChain a member of the Crypto Climate Accords and the Climate Chain Coalition. So people can look there for a list of projects that we might be interested in partnering with in the future or just getting to know. And On the financial side of it, I think you laid it out really clearly. If some people might be fans of Chamath Palihapitiya, who is a very famous investor, and he tweeted something a couple years ago, I'd have to find it, but that he said climate or decarbonization is going to be bigger than social media, bigger than search, bigger than all sorts of stuff. And also Kathy Wood, who's a very famous investor, has talked a lot about S-curves and compounding S-curves and basically booms in innovation where you see a lot of prosperity. And I think that decarbonization is part of that entire movement when you put AI, blockchain, genomics, autonomous, all that stuff together. If you leave decarbonization out of it, you really miss like a big chunk of it. So that's my spiel for now.
No, I agree with you. I'm curious though what other people think. Is there a dissenting opinion here?
Yeah. What is the message that you want us to say to the carbon community or the fossil industry?
I know. So I really appreciate that question. That's a very important question. So the short-term and long-term messages. So the short-term message is that blockchain does not have to be this climate disaster that it has been to date. Blockchain and crypto do not have to be so harsh for the environment, and that RChain has a fantastic solution that is hundreds of millions of times more efficient than Bitcoin at this point. And so this is a key message that it's about the short term, right? And that in fact we have a story that we believe fits nicely with how to move miners who are still making millions of dollars per day off of their proof of work networks and onto a proof of stake network like RChain, which is you increase your transaction volume by 3 orders of magnitude. You decrease your transaction fees by 2 orders of magnitude, and then the miners are looking at a 10x growth and an energy bill that's 100 millionth of what it was costing them. So that seems to me to be an extremely attractive offer to the mining sector, but it also should be an attractive proposal for anyone who is looking at blockchain applications. So that's the short-term answer, right? The long-term answer, which we have sketched out extensively, is that if we begin with self-sovereign data and self-sovereign identity, that begins to, which can start with NFTs, which is a high growth market, but quickly move into healthcare records and other key credentials and certificates and certified information. That becomes pivotal if we're talking about the kind of climate migration that we're about to see in the next 10 to 15 years. So I've sketched out this story over and over and over again in this channel and others. And so I hope that, I hope that this is a fairly powerful story, because you explain how you're going to fund it with an NFT platform that's far superior. and you explain what the growth path is towards climate scale solutions. So you begin with something that's considerably less risky and prove it at scale, and then you move into things that are considerably more risky and having already proved it at scale. So that's the two pieces of the climate story. And then the third piece that I have stressed, and there are many pieces to this story, but the third piece that I have stressed is that out beyond those two, what we want to do is to support a smart mobile power grid solution. So if you look at what the climate stresses are going to be, a lot of them will have to do with the power grid infrastructure. But with the advances in solar, we can contemplate local generation of power in neighborhoods, right? So individual homes, family homes, small businesses can be generating surplus power and share them out with their neighbors. But that sharing process needs to be accompanied with an accounting process. And that's where an appropriate blockchain comes into play. So wiring RChain into these kinds of distributed mobile solar solutions makes it possible to do a decentralized, smart and mobile power grid. Which I believe is going to be absolutely vital as we begin to face some of the infrastructure stresses. So those are a 3-point story. There's a lot more to it, but you can't say all that much in the time allotted for a pitch. So those are the big 3 points. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
I also just wanted to add one little tiny thing, if it's okay, Greg.
Sure, go for it.
I just think it's important to realize that, like, most of us on this call and most people in the crypto community have a kind of privilege of living mostly in the Northern Hemisphere and living in mostly wealthier places as a generalization. And I just think when we talk about infrastructure failing and things like that, the Southern Hemisphere has been experiencing that for decades already. So I just think it's very important to realize that, the Southern Hemisphere is a precursor to what will happen in the Northern Hemisphere. Maybe not in the same way, maybe not in the same time, but when we talk about things failing or things being unprecedented, I just think it's important to recognize that there are a lot of people who have been through this before. So that's just a little perspective there.
Yes, I agree.
If I might, I watched a pretty long video by a crypto blockchain skeptic the other day on YouTube. He was talking about NFTs, so it caught my eye. And I think he expressed an opinion that a great number of people are going to start sharing with each other, which is the perspective that blockchain is about the monetization of everything in the world. And that might be true for other blockchains, but I think with RChain specifically, we're not only providing a cryptocurrency, and Greg, this goes to your original point, Rolang and the inventions inside of RChain could easily be the next step in computing. And so in as much as that's true, this is not a blockchain, this is a computing platform. And I don't know how you market that, but being able to go to somebody and say, yes, you're using a blockchain, but you're not involved in crypto, I think is an important aspect to what we can do.
Yeah. I agree. I haven't wanted to even approach those kinds of sales because they're just so much harder. Well, you know,
I completely get that. I just, for me, uh, in terms of the actual marketing, which is what you're talking about, anywhere RChain gets used is not only beneficial to RChain, but it's beneficial to the planet. And
Well, not really. I mean, if Exxon wants to use RChain to, do nefarious stuff, I mean, that's not beneficial to the planet, right?
Well, so if Exxon wants to do nefarious stuff with a blockchain, they're going to pick a blockchain.
Right.
I'm not saying that we get in bed with Exxon. That's not what I'm suggesting.
Sure. I just think there are scenarios where not everything that could be done with RChain is beneficial to the planet. That's all.
Right, and the cooperative gets to make those decisions, and that's fine. But my point is that there's so much more to RChain, and when we talk about self-sovereign data, this is a good example. There's so much more to RChain than the exploitation of digital assets for the purposes of monetization. So I mean, I just, I don't know how that marketing works, but it does go to your point, Greg, that there's more here than just the crypto space. And so
yeah, no, I agree. And but I think once we begin to accept and acknowledge that, then we have to ask ourselves, what media outlets do we want to go to that are going to, and how are they going to connect us with the communities with whom we wish to connect? I mean, if we limit our marketing, if we continue marketing to the crypto speculators, it's no wonder nobody else has heard of RChain. It's like, it's not a mystery at all. If our marketing begins to stretch out and reach to the programming languages community or the climate change communities, or any number of other communities, the solar communities, the energy sector, all of these are market sectors that are natural to begin to talk to. And so we need to look at how our marketing lines up with our goals as a company, and which communities we want to speak to, which communities we supply solutions for, right? If we only talk to crypto speculators, only the crypto speculators will know about RChain. It's that simple.
So I just think that I agree with the focus on climate change, of course, right? As I just mentioned in the summary of the climate coordination call, decarbonization is the next industrial revolution, et cetera, et cetera. Where I don't quite see your angle is how, by focusing on our climate change solutions, we shouldn't be at all sending messages out to the crypto sphere as well. I don't quite see the connection you're making between we shouldn't be doing this and instead we should be doing that. I see more of a both and thing than an either or thing, but we had that discussion yesterday. But what I'd like to say right now is that what I'd like to kind of figure out is that you were talking about your short term and long term, and I think you had some really great visions towards what some of the long term solutions can be, and I think we need to really articulate that really well, because right now, when I look at our situation right now, how do we market our climate change centric focus to the greater world? We're in this kind of strange position. For damn sure, there's other layer one blockchains that are marketing things for climate. I was just reading an article about Cardano, who uses the Crypto Carbon Ratings Institute to say that they are the best one of them all for climate change So, there's definitely a lot of energy being put into that space. What I'm curious about with RChain right now is how are we better than other proof of stake so-called solutions? Tezos trumpets itself as being the best for climate change. Cardano has just done this with some supposed third-party institute that rated them. How is our technology right now with your short-term solution? How can we kind of message out that we are superior to those other ones, or are we?
So yes, we are, and we've published a spreadsheet that anyone can use to calculate how much better we are. We can certainly get that spreadsheet we can amplify the message of that spreadsheet model. Okay. But we put those calculations up on the internet so that anyone can check.
Is that the thing that Steve Ross Talbot made?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And we can update that with the block merge numbers, which considerably improve RChain's position.
Okay. So block merge, by actually having concurrency on our mainnet, makes us more efficient than the other proof of stake based solutions.
Yes, we still have concurrency on the mainnet today. We will have more concurrency on the mainnet with block merge.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
So by with our
block merge, you get more concurrency, and with more concurrency, you get better power efficiency. And in fact, the general trend in the marketplace is to increase the total number of physical threads per cubic centimeter while decreasing the total power consumption. That is the undeniable trend in the industry with respect to hardware. And so if you have an architecture that consumes physical threads and turns that into performance, if all you did was just do that, then you can ride the hardware wave to better and better power consumption profiles, because the power consumption to physical threads is getting better and better and better with each new generation of hardware.
So this is great. This is a great marketing.
Not doing that, right? Cardano is not doing that.
Right. So this is a really good marketing angle, because we can basically show that we are the least electricity consuming layer one platform out there. So therefore we're the best for climate change. And our method of telling that story also explains how our technology works and how it's superior.
Yes, but we can also say that we ride on the wave of hardware advancements over the next 15, 20 years. The hardware advancements, quantum computation being the exception, but the classical computation hardware advancements are all about reduction of power consumption while increasing the total number of physical threads. That's what they're doing.
Right.
And as long as we can eat all the physical threads you can throw at us and turn that into performance, that means our power consumption curve over the next 15 to 20 years only gets better and better. And if the other chains don't have a story like that, which they don't, then they might be efficient now, but in 15 years, they're not even in the running.
So Greg, this is part of what I was referring to when I mentioned the idea of marketing us as a next generation computing platform.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I've tried to make this argument, but I tried to make it subservient to and in the context of, the other things that we're attempting to do. If we try to sell people on compute, well, first of all, that eliminates most of the mainstream, right? They're just gone, right? We're now only talking to a very narrow market sector, segment of the tech market sector, right? If we're talking about self-sovereign data, you've now widened your market, your addressable market sector by 3 orders of magnitude.
Well, I'm just considering the idea, since you were talking about marketing, and since we're specifically making the argument that advances in hardware are going to make us better and better over time, is there any kind of value in pursuing some kind of a partnership with a hardware vendor?
Well, we don't. But see, the thing is, we benefit from their competition. If we hitch our wagon to one particular vendor's train, then it becomes harder to take advantage of the fact that we can play them off against each other, right? It's much.
I mean, I get that, but Microsoft made its deal with the devil with Intel too, right?
Yes, and they're in very bad shape now with respect to those kinds of bets, right? Yeah, I would not want to do that personally. I would much prefer to stay independent, and at least for the next 5 years. If there's a clear winner in 5 years, yeah, it makes sense to have a partnership, but it's much too early in the development of the space. I mean, the things are moving so fast with respect to hardware that it is very difficult to pick out even which technology trend, right? Do you go with the Tesla Dojo architecture and that thing, or do you hitch your wagon to optical? All of those are interesting trends that we have to analyze. So.
All right. So the hardware industry isn't ripe yet. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that at least that's my take. I mean, someone else might have a different take, but that's mine. Yeah. So it's a good conversation. I appreciate it. But I would also appreciate if people, they think about it. They think seriously. I mean, part of what makes RChain so special is the collective intelligence of its community. And if we all collectively put our heads together, I think we can begin to craft a marketing strategy that is multi-layered and many-faceted, and so can yield short-term fruit, medium-term fruit, and long-term fruit. And mostly what I want to do is to be the countervailing voice, right? It's like, so far, every dollar spent on marketing has ultimately put us in front of the crypto community largely, and then ever so slightly in the broader blockchain community. And I'm not saying that we don't talk to those communities. What I am saying is that if we were to put a lot more effort into these other things, then we might start to see a balance.
So I do have a question, and I mean, this isn't, maybe this isn't up in the clouds, the kind of thing we've been talking about so far, but is there a benefit of trying to take an alternative marketing approach for the Paris conference in April?
That's an interesting question. Certainly something that we should talk about with Raphael and, maybe the conference organizers in Paris.
I mean, it's just, for me, it kind of seems like if we were to try and start introducing a shift in our marketing, it might be beneficial to start that in Paris. I mean, that's what's in. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. It's a good point. Yeah. All right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, suggestions from the community?
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a question about if you have a Dazzle token and a DAPI token, to which exchanges do they go?
So I can say, as I have said before, that the Dazzle and RPC tokens will not go to exchanges for quite some time. The only ecosystem that we are planning for those sharded staking tokens is interior to the RChain ecosystem for enterprise resource planning. So for those shards which are enterprise solution heavy, such as Dazzle or RPC, the strategic play and the choice is to keep them entirely in the RChain ecosystem and to offer services that allow businesses to plan how much token they need in order to run their services. Right. So think about it just like an airline, right? An airline has got to manage its fuel supply, right? So the same thing will be true here. Dazzle, advertisers who want to push out large-scale campaigns on Dazzle will have to manage their token supply in order to do that. So that's the kind of solutions that we're providing. We do not believe that the exchanges are organized to do enterprise resource planning. We believe that the exchanges are organized to do day trading, and those are very different activities. And so that's our official position on this matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what about the DAPI token?
Yeah, so on the DAPI side, so we will be issuing fungible tokens, very similar to like ROC tokens in the old days, so ERC20-like tokens, but on the RChain mainnet. And then I think it's soon. So we would need to know the exact requirements for having an exchange, but basically I see no obstacle. An exchange would just need to have a box and to follow the withdrawals that are when people send tokens to this box, and then he can credit the corresponding account. So I think it's quite easy to do. Of course, I'm working a lot on RChain token, but yeah, with a few documentation, exchange can list any fungible token on RChain. Then the big question would be first, of course, RChain has to pass hard fork 3, and we have to pass the state reset before the token emission. And then, yeah, we will have resources on this topic, listing on exchange. We had a good exchange this week with Bill and other members about an event system, because maybe we need an event system for this. So yeah, lots of things are still going on the RChain token side. And when we feel comfortable enough, maybe it will be time to contact the exchanges. And also note that DAPI will be a consortium-like project. So we'll have a DAPI network with many companies. So they can also be a force for adoption of DAPI and for listing on exchanges independently of myself and the Fabco company.
Excellent. Thank you, Raphael.
Yep,
with that, I do have to jump off. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time, your engagement. I want to wish HJ a happy birthday. Yeah, please, many happy returns today, HJ. And so,
thanks a lot, Greg. And I wish you a happy birthday as well. It happened last week. Yeah.
Last Friday, yes. All right,
Happy
folks.
birthday, HJ.
Yeah, happy birthday, HJ.
Please stay safe, stay warm, and we will see you on the other side.